On this week's show, we'll be discussing Hi-Fi Rush studio Tango Gameworks is saved, Red Dead finally making it to PC, and what do we expect to happen at Gamescom? All that and much, much more in this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game news and stories right for you, right here, for your viewing or listening pleasure on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up in the digital cloud on your podcast preference of choice. I cannot speak at all today, but join me, hopefully he can, is the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. It's strange being back, but you know, it's like strangely familiar. It's like that kind of bordering a little bit on Uncanny Valley, but not quite.
I was trying to think earlier. I was like, when was the last time me and you did a one-on-one podcast? 'Cause I think you've done a few occasionally with Chris when I've been away.
Yeah,
but I don't think me and you have done a one-on-one. Probably since Sounds of Stadia.
Possibly quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good to sit down and just do the two of us for once. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, not to like badmouth you off stream, off camera and stuff like that.
I'll badmouth.
Never get the chance to sit with
the thing is, I know he's going to be listening to this, so badmouth him as much as you want.
Yeah, fair.
I know when I did one a few weeks ago because Chris is currently away with family in I think he's in France this time. A few weeks ago he was in Rome, so he's getting around a bit. I know he did have some comments for me and Rob when he came back because he did listen to the show. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you're kept in the loop with all of our fantastic content here at GamerGuildTV, such as the weekly podcast every single Monday on YouTube and podcast services, our weekly live streams every single Thursday, where most recently I've been working my way through Ocarina of Time, Tom. I've just finished Spirit Temple.
I've actually been watching
that
as well. Yes.
Nice.
Secretly watching it on the side. I was like, ooh, let's go. Old school.
Yeah, I can't remember when I started. It was like 6 months ago. It might have even been longer. But it's been very sporadic. But recently, with Chris being on holidays, it's kind of my break glass in case of emergency game. If there's something, I'm doing a stream solo, it's like, what am I going to play? Ocarina of Time.
I think it's a good shout.
Yeah.
It's a safe shout.
So,
people know the game. People love the game.
I think I've got one more stream left in it. Because I've just finished Spirit Temple, so it's going to be Ganon's Tower next.
Yay.
But I kind of want to do almost 100% of the game. I'm not doing all the gold sculptures. It's pointless.
Yeah.
I have the 50 needed to get all the decent upgrades. I need something like another 48 to complete them, and the only reward I get at this point going forward is rupees. So it's just not worth. I'm just not going to make people sit through that. No. I might do it myself off camera just to 100% it, but I'm not doing that.
If any 100%ers out there want to watch the stream, though, speak up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. That would be a very boring stream. But have you been playing anything interesting?
I am still chipping away at playing Baldur's Gate 3. It's a slow burner for me. I think it's just one of those games that, considering where I'm at now with parenthood and the like, that, you know, there's literally hundreds of hours worth of stuff I could put into that and so many different ways I could approach the game, that it's good on one hand because I can sit down and I can just sort of, you know, play 20 minutes here and there or a couple of hours one night or whatever. But on the other hand, I feel like I'm very, very barely scratching the surface currently because I'm pretty certain I'm still on Act 1 and I'm like, I don't even think I've hit level 5 yet, and I feel like I've been playing it for about 90 hours or something.
Yeah, I love Baldur's Gate. I haven't played 3. And the reason is, that's a PC game. I'm not touching that thing on console. Just not going to. It's just immoral, in my opinion, to play a game like that on console.
Yeah.
If you've only got a console, that's fine. But I don't think my PC would do it any justice. And I'm also never here. I'm just not in my own house ever. Like, I had a schedule view knowing what time we're going to record to make sure I was in the right house to record.
You did?
Yeah.
You did, I can confirm. You have to get yourself a Stream Deck. I mean, if that's the kind of thing that you fancy, or whether you really do mean, like, you know, is it a mouse and keyboard thing?
It's a mouse and keyboard thing.
Right.
So it's like...
So based on experience of playing, like, Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2.
Yeah.
And, like, Divinity, etc.
Yeah, just any kind of them, like, top-down isometric games. It'd be like playing Age of Empires on a console, like, or something like that.
Nah, not a chance. No way.
It's technically doable. I think I played a bit of City Skylines on Stadia, actually, with the controller as a curiosity. And it's doable. They've done a good job at mapping stuff. It's too tactical.
It's just not. Yeah, I get it. Especially not if you're used to it from previous experiences. I think making that transition from one platform to another is definitely difficult. I know I always had that issue when I played Overwatch. Like, I always prefer playing shooters on PC just because
yeah, I mean, so much snappier.
It is, and I feel like the skill level between playing with control and playing with a mouse as well is just like vastly different. That you know you can get good at playing it on PC, but then when you transition to console, it's kind of like learning the whole skill set again.
Yeah, but I will play it one at some point. It's just the way this year's gone for me.
It is damn good.
Yeah, I do intend to. I know my brother, I was talking to him back at Christmas, I was telling him, going, it's going to be my next game, and then it just never was. But
yeah, you need to keep it on the list, because it is, you know, it's an award winner for a reason. Like, swept so many awards for a reason. It is that damn good. So
one day,
you know, I'm only how many hours into it, but I'm still like eager to play it every single evening.
Yeah, well, I would have had a day and date, because I owned it on Stadia. I pre-ordered it. I think I did. I might have even done a stream of something. I can't remember. Check all the streams are still on the channel. Go find it if you want to look. So I was gutted when Stadia died, because I lost. That's one of the games I lost. I was like, I can't. Yeah. My PC's not going to be good enough. I think my PC could run it, but not well. Yeah. It's one of them. It's like, you're hitting like round about the minimum specs. I'd have to bet if I stuck a better GPU in, I'd be fine. But I don't want to buy a better GPU. I can't afford it.
Yeah, it's a big upgrade you got to pay for.
So there. I'd have to look at something like GFN, but I'd also need to have significant, because it is, as you mentioned, you feel like you're 90 hours in Act 1. That's a lot of gaming time. That it would be so disjointed. It's not even the subscription time. It's like my gaming of it would be so disjointed.
Yeah.
Like, most of my gaming is done now on the Portal, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the Portal. It's great.
All right.
I am the perfect use case for it at the moment. Anything else? Or it's just Baldur's Gate?
Baldur's Gate, dabbling with getting into No Man's Sky again.
Oh.
There was another big, once again, free update. You know, credit given where it's due to Hello Games, that they have been consistent since the terrible launch that everybody knows of No Man's Sky, that they have been consistent with free updates ever since, and it has significantly changed the game. But recently they released it's called Worlds Part 1. And essentially, they've created a new planet generation system. So the planets are a lot more diverse now, and there's a lot of graphic overhauls to the planets as well. Because that game originally came out 2016.
Yeah,
it's a long time ago now.
I think I was one of the few people who didn't buy into the hype of that game. I remember when it was coming out, there's this hype. Everyone said it's going to be the best game ever, best game ever, best game ever. I'm looking and going, what's the game? Because it was just like a lot of premise, but no actual content, really. I was like, what is the gameplay? And then when it came out, there was no gameplay. And then they've done a hell of a job keeping that relevant, or clawing it back into relevancy, and then they just continue to support it. And I think it's such a success story now.
It is. I mean, and it's something that a lot of devs should really sort of like take ownership of. I mean, I believe I also saw something online recently that the dev team behind Helldivers 2 said that they're taking inspiration from Hello Games into, you know, how they're going to move Helldivers 2 forwards as well. And I think that sort of if you have that sort of mentality, I think the teams behind these games are sort of, they're garnering the trust of the player base more than anything. It's just, obviously the publishers don't see the same thing. They only see the big sack of cash at the end of every single update.
But this is the problem, because there's so many. There's No Man's Sky is a rare success story in that kind of field where they've overmarketed and underdelivered. It's a rare success story where they've managed to claw this back, and I think it is purely down to the passion that the team has for the game and knowing what it could be. Where I think it feels like the marketing team very much hamstrung them on that one. Where if they came out and it was they just sold it for what it was. But how many games get oversold and underdeliver, and it erodes trust in that developer, and that is hard to win back.
Yeah.
So I've talked about it before. That's why I don't buy Ubisoft games day and date.
No.
I'm
right there with you.
I'm always interested, but I'm always skeptical.
It's definitely how I feel towards Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah,
with it, I'm very much in the boat, like I'm sure yourself, of waiting, seeing the initial reception, deciding, because Ubisoft games also have this sort of like stigma about them that they're going to be on an 80% off sale at some point, like within the first few months anyway. So just wait it out.
I'm still holding out for one day Ubisoft Plus to come to PlayStation.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have an Xbox, but I've talked to death about it. The reason that I don't play much Xbox at the moment is just because my Xbox is limited at either playing on my phone or in my own house, which I'm never here. So
yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, although I have actually just bought a 4K Fire Stick. It is around my girlfand's. It is not set up yet. It will be one day. It will be one day.
Get on it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
It was a good sale. And because now you can get Game Pass on the Fire Stick. So
yeah,
it just seemed like a good investment. But
of course it is. Absolutely.
As for me, I've recently been playing through all the Uncharted games. I have now got the platinum in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I also replayed Lost Legacy. I already had the platinum in that, so I just played just the story.
Yeah.
Roll credits, and I've just moved on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm finally playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's
how many times have you purchased it? Is the question.
Just the once.
Okay.
I think it might have been on PS Plus way back when, and it was installed. It probably still is installed on my PS4 before I got the PS5, and it was just permanently installed. Never got round to it. When I got my PS5, I installed it there. Never got round to it. I'm finally playing.
There's something about those Tomb Raider games. I think I ended up, because of Stadia and because of other platforms as well, that I've purchased those games. Again, it's kind of like that weird sort of Sonic the Hedgehog kind of thing where I've bought the game several times on several different platforms. Yet, I still haven't played past the second, so well, that's where we're at.
Rise is the second, Shadow's the third. And our first full playthrough on the channel was Tomb Raider. So there's a bit of a legacy with Tomb Raider in the channel, and
that's a big throwback.
And as someone, actually, this is going to be controversial, and Chris is probably going to kill me next week for saying this, as someone who's just played all the Uncharted games, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Lost Legacy, back to back, and then moving on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, while watching my girlfriend play Rise of the Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider's better.
Okay.
Modern Tomb Raider is better. There's more game to it. There's more mechanics. Story, I think, is on par. Maybe Tomb Raider's not quite as good, but there's just more game in the Tomb Raider games. Yeah. So Chris is probably.
How would you compare movies?
I haven't seen the Uncharted movie. I haven't seen the Tomb Raider movie since Angelina Jolie, so I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
You'll have to. There you go. Yeah. There's some homework for you. Go away, watch the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider, and then watch Uncharted and compare the two and see which is better.
I'm gonna have to. I've been telling my girlfriend we need to watch the Uncharted movie because she's done the same as me. She's been binging the Uncharted games. So literally, this is like my gaming life now. Is like we're sat on the couch, she's on the telly, I'm on the portal, basically playing the same game.
Nice.
Yeah. And with that, Tom, would you like to introduce us to the
Oh, wow. This is again a throwback, but you're twisting my words here. The graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka The News.
The News. And as always, our news is brought to you by our Guild Heroes, which you can join for as little as 99p over on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your support. Very much appreciate it. And you absolutely nailed that, Tom.
Hey.
Nailed it.
It's like I never left.
But you know who else has nailed it, I think? PlayStation with this mid-month's PlayStation Plus catalogue editions for August. Some bangers this month. Have you looked at the list
Absolutely.
yet, Tom?
I have, and I think the one that sticks out right at the top, I think everybody can talk about, is for those people who haven't actually bought it yet, what the hell are you doing? Like, what? For those people who've never actually played it.
Ride 5.
The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Yes, Ride 5, obviously Ride 5. No, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Absolutely. I mean, it is an epic of a game. And it's literally, if you've never played any of the Witcher games whatsoever, this is the one you should play.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
Undoubtedly, this is the one.
I, to this day, use The Witcher 3 as the benchmark now for action RPGs. Like, previous to that, like, if you think of, like, first-person open-world RPGs, you still kind of use Skyrim a bit as your benchmark. Witcher 3 is for the third-person action RPGs for me, because it is so good. So it's almost like now,
Well, I think...
if a game that comes out now isn't as good as Witcher 3, it's like, what you doing?
Yeah. I think I'd be like, I wouldn't be remiss in saying things like, you know, the God of War series, like the remakes or the newer versions, I should say, are probably also inspired by the likes of The Witcher 3 in terms of the gameplay and so on. There, like you say, it is the pinnacle, the benchmark, this is the line you have to pass in order to be a great game in that category.
And it is a true RPG in the sense that you can kind of play Geralt however you wish. Do you want to focus more on the magic? Do you want to focus more on your potion side? Do you want to focus more on like physical combat? When you're going physical combat, do you want to go fast? Do you want to go heavy? You can kind of tailor the experience to how you play. Where I find a lot of modern RPGs, you kind of just end up maxing out all the talent trees anyway.
Yeah.
Or the
one thing I would
focus you
say,
down a certain path, or you might go super stealthy, then a bit of the story will go, nah, you have to be full on combat for this. Yeah.
The one thing I would say about The Witcher 3, though, it is notorious for being a completionist's nightmare, considering the amount of clutter on the mini-map that you will get from everything from picking up herbs and so on in the wildlife. It's insane. But if you love your RPGs, if you love your RPGs, though, it is undoubtedly one that needs to be on your list.
But I think one of the things I've always praised it the highest for is I can't think of any other RPG that does side quests as well as The Witcher 3, and how they all feel authentic to what Geralt would do. Every single one of them. Even just like the hunt, go, I'm going to go hunt a griffin. But Geralt is a monster hunter. That is what he does. This is his job, so he would do that. He'd turn up to a village, see there's a griffin hunt, go hunt the griffin, get his coin, because he needs the coin.
Absolutely.
Where you get a lot of RPGs where some random villager will go over there, kill them bandits, come back and give you some coin. It's like, why would my character do that?
That's I think that's like direct shots fired at Dragon's Dogma right there.
I've never played it, so I was thinking more of like Assassin's Creed, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Where I know with Odyssey, I found a lot of the side quests completely pointless.
Yeah.
But
that is true. But other titles, though, on there, Richie, we've got Cult of the Lamb, we've got Wild Hearts, we've got Ride 5, we've got Watch Dogs 2, we've also got, if I can find it, the Sword Art Online Last Recollection as well.
I've never played any Sword Art games, have you?
I haven't. Have you watched the anime?
I've watched some of it. The first half of the first season was amazing. It kind of fell into a bit of a mess after that.
Yeah, we've got it's a collection of games that includes 1, 2, 3, 4 different or 5 different Sword Art games that you're actually getting as part of it. The Last Recollection includes I'm not even going to try to say some of these names, to be honest with you. But basically, you get a good range of Sword Art games as part of the PlayStation Plus package for August there. You
do. Okay. You also get Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Strikers, Sword Art Online, Alicization, Licorice. Saw
that's
that
what I was trying
online,
to
Fatal
avoid.
Bullet. Saw that online, Hollow Realization. Then you get into some classic stuff. Vacation Simulator, PSVR 2.
Hey.
Time Splitters. This is one I think Chris would have loved to be here for.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, we're going to butcher this.
So, Time Splitters 2, and Time Splitters Future Perfect. So,
Okay.
Chris has given us a few notes so we don't completely butcher this section.
Okay.
PlayStation 2 classic Time Splitters trilogy also makes its way to premium, meaning you can play them without owning a PS2 for the very first time. That is insane that these games have never made it past the PS2.
It is. It definitely seems to be one as well that I know a lot of people are genuinely voicing that they want new Time Splitters games to come out as well. It has this like die-hard fan base, it seems to be, from back in the 2000s.
I think one was announced but may have been canned. I want to say maybe Embrace It, if my memory serves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure something was announced at some point and then...
Okay.
I'd have to confirm with Chris. My memory's a bit fuzzy on it, but I think...
Any experience of playing Time Splitters yourself?
I don't think I've ever played them.
I'm so sorry, Chris, but I also have never played Time Splitters before. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of ruining being the guest on this episode.
Yeah, I had a PS2, but I don't think I ever actually had owned Time Splitters.
No.
To be fair, I had a PS2 at the same time. I had my N64, and I was more than leaning towards Nintendo. There's a few games I had on the PS2. I remember I had like Splinter Cell. I had Final Fantasy X. I think I probably had one of the FIFAs. You know, I had more stuff on my N64 than my PS2.
Yeah.
But out of all the games coming, is it? What would be... Obviously, your pick of the bunch is going to be Witcher, but I think Cult of the Lamb's got a bit of a cult following. No pun intended.
Yeah, I think this is a game that I have sort of like... I've had it, but again, it's been just sat there, so I've never delved into it. I don't know much about it. Again, I feel terrible like going into this. I'm looking at the list and I'm like, I know all these titles.
I know of them, but I don't know them.
Yeah.
I'm the same with Cult of the Lamb.
Especially Ride 5.
It's on my radar. I just don't. I haven't looked into it enough to know to adequately describe what the game is. So, Cult of the Lamb, reading from the PlayStation blog, Cult of the Lamb cast plays in the role of a possessed lamb saved from annihilation by an ominous stranger who must repay their debt by building a loyal following in his name. Start your own cult in the land of false prophets, venturing out into diverse and mysterious regions to build a loyal community of woodland worshippers and spread your word to become the one true cult.
Oh, okay. So it sounds very much sort of like a, I don't want to say city builder, so to speak, but almost like a camp builder or like a community builder type thing with resource gathering and influence of some sort.
To me, it kind of like gameplay wise, and there's probably a trailer up at the moment as we're talking on the YouTube video. It kind of reminds me of something like a bit like Binding of Isaac, kind of almost like roguelike. Well, it's probably not roguelike, but in terms of like the small like every one screen windows where everything's on screen at the same time, then you move to the next screen, then the next screen. That kind of style of gameplay, and quite actiony actually.
Oh, okay.
So it looks. I can totally see why it's got a bit of a cult following, considering actually that is literally the point of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Wild Hearts, I think, deserves a bit of credit because it's basically it's Monster Hunter, and you don't get much in the Monster Hunter genre outside of Monster Hunter itself.
Absolutely not. I think it's something that it's what is it? It's like Monster Hunter, but with a more like natural or like wildlifey take rather than. I say wildlifey take. I get what it is. It's very much like this technology versus nature, isn't it? Wild Hearts.
Yeah. I think it had a few unique mechanics. I think you can summon. I want to say you can like summon blocks to help with platforming sections and stuff. Chris actually did a first look on the channel, so it's worth checking it out.
Absolutely. I think we have to talk about Watch Dogs 2 for sure. The best of the series.
Yeah. So I've
by
heard.
far.
I've never played any of them.
Oh wow, okay. It's coincidentally it's the only one I have any experience of playing. I didn't touch the first one. Certainly didn't follow that up either. But it is something that is worth noting that Watch Dogs 2 has actually been out on PlayStation Plus before, so it is a re-release for anybody who missed it first time round. But you play as Marcus Holloway, a brilliant young hacker living in the birthplace of the tech revolution, the San Francisco Bay Area. Teams up with DedSec, a notorious group of hackers, to execute the biggest hack in history, taking down the CTOS 2.0. An invasive operating system being used by criminal masterminds to monitor and manipulate citizens on a massive scale.
Yeah.
And that literally is what it is. It's got all of the Watchdog mechanics, but with a much, I'd say a much lighter twist. I don't necessarily mean lighter, but a much more like humorous twist, I suppose we could say.
Yeah, I've got a feeling, without actually playing it, they took probably the wrong lessons from Watch Dogs 2, with Watch Dogs 2 being more popular than Watch Dogs 1. When it came to Legion, they seemed to lean more into the slapstick comedy, but I think they kind of hamstrung themselves by removing the focal character to tell the narrative.
I think I'd agree with that statement.
I think that was kind of Chris's kind of rough review of it. It's like it was Legion was a decent game, but he did feel like he was lacking that one focal character, and he just didn't care about any of the random characters that you could kind of take over and just, who are these people? Why do I care? It was like, it just made the whole thing feel a bit disjointed. And then I think the series is now actually on hiatus, which is unfortunate. It is,
because it seemed to be going really well for it in Watch Dogs 2, and then from there, like you say, downward trajectory, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it feels
game,
like,
again,
I always felt like it was mishandled IP. They didn't really know what they needed to do with it, but there's definitely always felt like there's potential there.
Yeah.
But another game actually coming to PlayStation Plus is indie darling The Plucky Squire. It's confirmed to be day one PS Plus title, so it's actually a rare thing. It comes out 17th of September. It's a rare thing that we actually get a game day and date to PlayStation Plus nowadays.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I'm just looking at it right here. It seems like a mishmash of quite a few things. I'm getting some vibes of like old school, like for people who've played it before, like Castle Crashers. It's definitely got like a Legend of Zelda, like 2D Legend of Zelda vibe to it, and there's even 3D elements mixed in there as well. So it's quite an interesting bag of things, really.
Yeah, at times it's looking like a 2D platformer. Other times it's looking like top down, like almost like very much kids art style, watercolored kind of thing. And then there's stuff where they've clearly ripped off Legend of Zelda, Link Between Worlds, where like you can jump from the 3D into the 2D into the paintings, because that was the core mechanic of that game. And it's like, I think it looks quite cool actually.
It does, yeah. This is something I've never really caught before, so I'm actually kind of keen looking at what I can see.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah. So that, I think that is coming for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium members for the catalogue. So it's not going to be a monthly game. It'll be basically one of your mid-month games for next month.
Okay.
That might be the first actually as well that they've done a PlayStation Plus game day and date that isn't one of your monthly claimables. That is just part of the ongoing catalogue of rotating games. Do you have PlayStation Plus at the moment?
I believe I do. Yeah. I believe I pay annually for it. So, I mean, I've had it since the PS3 days, and I'm pretty sure I had it around about Christmas time. So that's been ticking over nicely into Sony's bank account ever since then. Really, I'm on an annual basis.
I'm slumming it on like the basic package at the moment on as an annual thing, because even though I host a video game podcast and previously hosted a PlayStation specific podcast, I still found myself never actually playing any of the library games. And back in January, I was kind of doing a bit of cost cutting, like as things are getting really expensive. I was like, where can I claw back some money? And it's like, I'm not making use of premium.
Yeah.
So I just went all the way down to essential.
I mean, it is fair. It's one of these things that we've got so many subscription services and things like that available to us these days, and truth be told, sorry to you young folk out there, but as you get older with more responsibilities in life, time for gaming does become limited. So you do have to pick and choose like what you're playing and so on. And sometimes the services, while it's nice to build up the library, it's hard to keep up with the amount of stuff that's thrown your way.
Oh, I'm terrible for that. But there again, I've just been playing through all the Uncharted games and now starting with the Tomb Raider games. But there's massive titles that I've wanted to play and just never got around to. I dropped Jedi Survivor.
Oh wow! Okay.
Main reason is it's on Xbox. I've got it on Xbox, not PlayStation, and not rehashing stuff. But it's like
that was just a whole thing.
Yeah, it is, because it's just easier for me to play PlayStation at the moment when I'm not at my house. So there's stuff there. So I was like, because as I was saying with Baldur's Gate earlier, the reason I haven't bought it is because I'd be so disjointed in playing it, I'd end up dropping out, and that's what happened with Jedi Survivor. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that.
But I also didn't love Jedi Fallen Order as much as you and Chris. I don't know. I have never been able to put my finger on why I didn't love that game. I liked it.
Well, it's fine. If it doesn't sit with you, it doesn't sit with you.
Moving on, how would you like to play over 1,300 classic games on PlayStation?
It's tempting. It depends what classic games are included in those 1,300. It's quite a large number.
I'm not going to list them. That would be the entire show.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
Antstream Games is coming to PlayStation, bringing over 1,000 retro and arcade games to the platform. So games that cover from platforms including the SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Lynx, Amstrad, Amiga, Arcade, PS1, Atari, Sega Genesis. It's a massive library of diverse stuff. But
it really, really is.
It is. Wow. So it's one of them. If you are a retro game enthusiast, I think this could be a potential bargain.
It could be. Just having a quick look through the list of, you've got some classic games out there, like on the SNES, you've got Super Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back is on there. On the ZX Spectrum, we've got some. It looks like you're hitting some decent games on every platform. But then it also looks like there's a lot of what I would deem to be filler, in a way. Yeah. It's obviously going to be near and dear to somebody's heart out there. Yeah. There's going to be some people who see it and go, oh yeah, I remember playing that. Joe and Mac. There you go. I've just seen Joe and Mac on the list. I've seen R-Type on the list. Just some classic arcade games. But yeah, there's a lot out there. 1,300 certainly does incorporate a lot. Yeah. There's not much that can be said other than that, really.
Yeah, so you can get this as a one-off purchase for £99.99. Just a one-off, you get full access to the library, or you can pay an annual fee of $39.99 as a subscription model. I kind of like that, giving people the option.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like is it appears that you can, although this is in the announcement that it's coming to PS5 and PS4 in the near future, it seems like once you have this, you can just pick and choose what platform you want to play it on.
Oh wow!
I'm not going to comment on how cross saves might work for this, because there just isn't enough information available to me at the moment. But it'd be pretty cool if you could. And stuff like that makes me feel more confident in the longevity of the service.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think it needs to be clear that it is essentially a service, isn't it?
Yes.
It is streaming these retro games, so again, it's another streaming service. But like you said before, I like the idea that somebody could pay a single fee for lifetime access. I think that's decent, and I think a lot of services these days are missing that option. Although they might end up having to price themselves out of the market. But depending on what you have available in your library, I think just shy of £100 is decent for a big collection of classic games, especially if you are a retro gamer.
Oh, absolutely. I can guarantee there's someone out there who was a massive fan of something like, I don't know, Rugby Boss on the ZX Spectrum back in the day, and now can't get the hands on it. Now here's the opportunity. So I kind of like this from a game preservation point of view. I just picked it, or maybe Frisky Tom and the Atari 5200s. There you go. It is the only Atari 5200 game currently available on the service. I know nothing about it, but it's there. Someone has played that game and enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really do like this as a game preservation thing, because I think game preservation is such an important thing that I think it's been neglected a lot by the gaming industry over time.
Yeah.
And it's difficult when things are gone to get them back. Just look at Time Splitters. It took this long to get off the PS2.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very, very true.
Yeah, but talking about getting things back, we previously reported on Tango Gameworks after the success of Hi-Fi Rush got shut down by Xbox. They've been saved, Tom. They have been saved. So, you've played Hi-Fi Rush, haven't you?
I have. I'm very happy to say I have as well. It's a game that people were incredibly surprised by when it came out. Just a sweet little indie title that just popped up. It was. It came out of nowhere, and I have to say, it was a refreshing. How can I describe it? It was a refreshing game, very much set in like it was an action rhythm game, is what I'd describe it as. It's very much a 3D hack and slash, but to a rhythm. And the art, the cel-shaded art style, everything down to the characters, the comic book sort of interactions between them, the styles of the bosses, the individual levels. It's charming all the way through.
That's
and
where
it is
I was
really something.
always have in mind.
Yeah.
It's a game that's just full of charm.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad to hear that Tango Gameworks have essentially been saved from Doom, really, because for a company that that created such a gem, there needs to be the potential for a second Hi-Fi Rush, or for future games of a similar style, because it really is something that I'd strongly recommend people either check out and play themselves, or watch it online, see what you think of it.
I'm just so happy to be reporting on this, because we've been reporting, especially this year and last year, so many, because the gaming industry's kind of gone through a very much harsh consolidation period. People losing jobs left, right and centre as companies are trying to cut costs. Studios are getting cut down. Tango Gameworks, I think, were unfortunate to be a studio on Xbox's library when the Xbox are trying to save a couple of quid that didn't have any active projects. So they were unfortunately the easy people to close, because there's no at the time there's very little investment sunk into any of their projects. So I think that is an unfortunate thing. I don't think it was ever a reflection on the quality of the team or the quality of the games they produced, just the logistics.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. But they've been picked up by Crafton, the guys who make PUBG. So
PUBG's still a game that's going strong in some countries.
It is. It's going. I think it's just going strong. It flies under the radar a bit because its heyday is definitely past. Things like Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone very much eclipsed it, and then took it onto massive numbers that were actually, quite frankly, insane how popular them games are. But PUBG was the original battle royale that really broke through. It wasn't the first one ever, but it was the one that broke through, and it's because of PUBG that Fortnite exists in its current form. I think they've even announced that. So
absolutely,
it is nice to see some good news that a talented development team is being saved. Don't know what the staffing's like there, how many of the staff are retained, or is it just the company that's being retained? But they Crafton have got the IP for Hi-Fi Rush.
I think that's a big thing, is saving that IP.
Yes. That saving the IP and having it still made by Tango Gameworks, I think, is kind of important. So I think you might be able to get some of the original team back together to get Hi-Fi Rush 2, because that game deserves one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one I think you could do multimedia as well. I think you could do like an animated TV show on that.
Yeah.
12
there's a
episodes
potential
Netflix series or something.
You can see it happening.
Yeah. Some original music, like, I think there'd be something really cool to happen there. I'm thinking kind of like, the cyberpunk anime.
Yes.
Something along them sort of lines where I think you can do it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. Let's keep the show moving and let's talk about Gamescom. Gamescom opening night live is on Tuesday, so at the time you listen to this, it'll be tomorrow night. We're not covering it on the channel just because of availability. Let's look into what we expect to be there. Do you have any wild predictions to start us off, Tom?
New Resident Evil.
New Resident Evil? Okay.
Yeah, new Resident Evil. Let's go Resident Evil 9. Let's see them do it. Come on, Capcom.
You know what? I hadn't even thought of Resident Evil, but yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I think that could be there. It's been announced that they have announced they're working on it. They've never showed anything. I don't know if maybe it's too soon to showcase.
I don't think it's not too soon. I think the timing's right, personally. But yeah, I could see an imminent announcement of a Resident Evil 9. Hopefully they go for Resident Evil 9 and not another like collection of previous titles once again. Because we know they've sort of like hit the jackpot with the recent with Biohazard Village.
Yeah,
I think
they're in a strong point at the moment.
They are definitely. They've got a formula that works, and I think they should continue to ride that wave.
So actually, let's talk a bit about Resident Evil 9. What would you expect from that game? Because if you look at if you look at Village and if you look at 7. They're actually a couple of different games in one, really, because with 7, and I think Village as well, you can play them in VR, you can play them in first person, you can play them in third person. That's three different approaches to telling the same story. So what would you expect 9 to have? Would you say all three things at the back?
Augmented reality, overlaid in the real world.
I think that would be a miss.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I think a Resident Evil AR game could work, but I don't think it should be Resident Evil 9.
No, definitely not. What would I expect?
Or want.
I mean, go on.
Or what would you want?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be expect.
Oh. I would want... Oh, do you know what? Even just thinking back to like Resident Evil 4 and the remake of that, I think it would be nice for them to go back and include some of the original characters. I think still have some sort of big bad thing going on, but take us back. Go down the Umbrella route. Bring back Wesker, let's say, and let's go down that alley there. I don't know. I still want to keep it with the the very firm sort of horror esque thing rather than it being quite action oriented. I really loved that element of Biohazard in particular. That game still from the streams that we did back in the day, and also with Village as well. That element is just. It works. It just works at the moment. Just got to keep going with it.
That's, I think, why people fell in love with Resident Evil to begin with. And actually, although 4 is kind of probably the highest rated in the franchise and usually in the conversation of greatest game of all time, I think 4 was kind of the first move towards more of an horror action game rather than survival horror, which led to 5 and 6 being kind of the black sheep of the franchise.
Absolutely.
So I do think they need to stick with survival horror. There can be action elements to it, but they do. I think they need to stick to that. Plot wise, I'm with you. I want to see them kind of link. Like they probably need to link Village and 7 somehow to things like to the remake, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. It'd be nice to kind of pull these all together, and I'd love them to remake 1 again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I do want to see a new entry in the series as opposed to going back and rehashing one of the titles again. So my bold prediction is Resident Evil 9. Any thoughts yourself?
I always struggle with these predictions because I never know what. Like, I'm going to stay away from the Xbox stuff because Xbox have actually announced what they've got there. Everything from Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Diablo Immortal, Stalker 2, Atomfall, Starfield, Shattered Space, Age of Mythology Retold. There's literally tons and tons of stuff that Xbox are showcasing, including Star Wars Outlaws, actually. That, although it's not an Xbox game. But Indiana Jones is going to be there, Vowd's going to be there, Ara History Untold. This is not just an opening like live, but this is just over the week for Gamescom. So there's a huge amount of stuff.
Okay.
I'm going to go Persona 6.
Oh, wow.
I know Metaphor Refans Hazio is going to be there. Same studio as Persona 5. Persona 3 and 4 were kind of remastered last year, I think it was.
Yeah,
I think
it was last year.
I think the world is ready to hear about Persona 6 for it to be announced that they're actually working on it.
Yeah.
I think it's a bold prediction considering I think there is some... I'm sure I've seen some like DLC for Persona 3 might be around... Might be around... I think last year Persona 3 Reload Episode Aegis was announced. I don't think it ever came out. So... I don't know. I do want to see Persona 610 at some point.
Yeah, I can see more about Death Stranding 2 potentially.
Yeah, that's a safe prediction though. Kojima and
exactly. We know with Kojima and Jeff Keighley are essentially game bros at this point, aren't they? So we're definitely going to get to the point where we'll see Death Stranding appear there. I'm also potentially wondering whether we have an announcement of just having a quick look through here on online. Like some people are saying that is the time right now for the announcement, the world premiere announcement of the next premiere. Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Yeah, the next Sonic the Hedgehog movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 3
and Knuckles. That's what they need to call it. That's what they need to call it. Even though, because Knuckles had his own, his own movie or TV show?
Yes, Paramount TV show.
Yeah. So that would be hilarious if the one Sonic 3 comes up and then just at the bottom, and Knuckles.
And Knuckles. Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of that could be good. Maybe Last of Us Season 2, actually.
Ooh, that's a good one. They are...
There's a lot of cast stuff getting announced recently.
Yeah, they talked about Abby, didn't they? And there's the talk about Abby having a personal security sort of entourage with her, the person who's playing Abby, for reasons that if you've not played the game, we won't talk about. But yeah.
My only thing, though, is PlayStation kind of don't really turn up to these kind of events too much.
Yeah.
But I think with a TV show, I think that goes different because the TV show is more of a Sony decision rather than a PlayStation decision. And I think, it's something like, Last of Us Season 2, having at Gamescom, makes sense a bit.
Yeah.
Depending, because that could also be a Game Awards thing. But I could see something there.
Okay. Good. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Not long to wait.
Nope. It's going to be fun to watch it. Like, especially, I'm just looking at the list stuff from Xbox. But Xbox feel like they're in the perpetual state of almost about to explode, because they've got so much cool stuff that just doesn't seem to quite get out. Like, I think Avowed especially needs a good push, because I think it's one of the most. I don't think this is a testament to its quality. I just forget about it.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones? Any looking forward to the Great Circle?
I am actually. I'm interested in seeing how it actually looks. Is it going to be just a straight up like Tomb Raider, Uncharted sort of clone, or is it going to have its own real sort of unique gameplay elements that are going to make it stand out as an Indiana Jones game? Really?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be first person, which I think is interesting, considering, bear in mind, Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider games were based off in Indiana Jones. Yeah, and I think the first Tomb Raider might have even started off life as an Indiana Jones game, but then probably couldn't get the IP, so they created Lara Croft. And then I find it hilarious that Uncharted is kind of almost a spiritual successor to the original Tomb Raider games.
Yep.
And then the Tomb Raider reboot are heavily inspired by Uncharted, so it's kind of like almost things going full circle. But Indiana Jones, I think it could be very. I know Chris is really excited for it because he's a massive indie fan.
Absolutely.
I need to rewatch them. I haven't watched them since I was a kid.
No, I was tempted the other day when I saw it. Booted up my Google Chromecast and had a look through the library, and I thought, ooh,
rest in peace, Chromecast.
Yeah.
Have you seen that news? Chromecast is dead.
Yeah.
To the graveyard with you.
Dear. Another one.
I personally think, though, with the Chromecast decision, I think it's almost redundant technology now, though. It says the guy who just bought a Fire Stick. Most TVs now have similar capabilities built in.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the, it's like an MP3 player, iPod kind of situation where it had its moment in time, but then other devices kind of took away what it made it its own thing. And with no Stadia, there's no console propping it up.
No,
because it's totally Stadia that was propping up Chromecast this long.
Oh, absolutely, of course it was. It was. It's where all the numbers were. It's where all the money was.
I've still got about 4 Chromecast Ultras lying around.
Yeah. I've still got a sealed Premiere kit somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's worth anything as a collector's kind of thing.
It was one of the ones that you got when they were doing the offers of like when you purchase such and such a game, and we would send you a Premiere kit. I've still got that sealed away somewhere. The plan was to give that to my son for his birthday when he was old enough to actually play games. But now what's the point? Because it doesn't bloody work.
Yeah.
I'll have to just set. In fact, actually, I don't even think the controller will, because didn't Google take the online thing down that will allow you to change the controller from being Wi-Fi to Bluetooth? Unless somebody's kept that up as like homebrew.
There might be a homebrew version of it, but I bet you could find it. But it still works as a wired controller. So
but who's got time for that?
I tend to, if I'm playing a PC game that requires a controller, if I'm being a bit naughty and playing something emulated, I will use a Google Stadia controller because I think it's the most comfortable controller I own. And I literally got a USB cable on my desk right in front of me. So it being plugged in, it's not restricting because of the distance. But that's just my desk setup. But yeah. Rest in peace, Google Stadia. I miss you.
I know.
The rebirth of Google Stadia will be at Gamescom.
Oh God, no! Don't do that.
Amazon Luna could be there though.
Amazon Luna. That's still a thing.
Right. That's my bold prediction. There will be something to do with Luna. It'll be a logo on one of the game trailers or something, and Amazon will have their own game at Gamescom. But it won't be coming to Luna. Because not a single game that Amazon have published have come to Luna.
No.
Not one.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous. But you know what is ridiculous as well? Apparently we should not expect the Switch 2 this financial year.
Really?
I did check. Nintendo's financial year does run April to April. So the earliest Kotaku believe that we should see the Switch 2 is April next year.
Wow.
What do you want from Switch 2? Because I don't think I've talked to you about it.
I don't really know. I think the form factor of the Switch is pretty much spot on what you want it to be. I think the only thing you would want is improved performance all around, really. You know, time and time again, we've seen games that have been ported to the Switch come out, and it's just straight up been a downgrade in graphical capability. And we know that was always going to be the case with the Switch because of where it sits in sort of like that weird sort of like 0.5 gen each time. But it's becoming apparent that it's so far behind.
Yeah.
Now.
I think Nintendo have done miraculous things with the Switch. If you look at things like Tears of the Kingdom, how for the most part that plays actually really quite smoothly. Only 30 frames per second, but to get 30 frames per second 1080p in a game that looks that good, quite stable, on what was old mobile hardware when it came out. So it doesn't have a dedicated GPU. It's got an APU in there. I think was incredibly impressive. The problem, I think, with that level of hardware is while Nintendo have showcased that you can do it, third-party publishers look at it and go, that's a lot of development that you probably have to develop from the ground up to run on that. Where if you port the game, you're not developing from the ground up.
Yeah. So look at direct competitors when we look at you know, in taking the console in itself, where we've got, you know, the Steam Deck, we've got the ROG Ally, you've got the PlayStation Portal as well, which obviously you can chime in on there. There's obviously performance differences between each of these devices as well, and where one might have a pro over the others, it also has a massive con. For example, like the Steam Decks and the ROG Allies are notorious for how hot they actually get because of the onboard hardware. Able to do some amazing things with the kit, but at a cost, right?
Yeah, I don't think a Switch 2... I'm with you. What I want from a Switch 2 is a Switch but better. I want to be backwards compatible as well, so I don't lose all my current Switch library. I just want that hardware just better in every single conceivable way. Because I think they've nailed it for what that console is. They've absolutely nailed it. It's just feeling underpowered nowadays. Yes. What I want is basically my Switch, but with the performance of a PlayStation 4. I would be over the moon with that. Because a lot of games now are still getting ported to the PlayStation 4. I think Jedi Survivor actually is coming to PlayStation 4. So we're not even talking about small titles, we're talking about tentpole AAA experiences. So if the Switch 2 is on par with that, I think you're good.
It's crazy to hear news that things like Jedi Survivor are being ported backwards because...
the amount of PS4s in the wild.
Well, it's true, but also there are like significant performance issues with that game, both on PC and PlayStation 5 as well. So I'm sure it's the same on Xbox too. Yeah. But yeah, to hear that something's being ported backwards is slightly concerning in that regard. But hey, like you say, the amount of consoles that are available, it's a money game at the end of the day.
I hope Nintendo aren't going silly with it, because you know sometimes Nintendo trying to reinvent the wheel a bit. Like, it worked with the Wii, didn't work with the Wii U. Just, you've
Wii
got
U,
something...
aka Switch Beta.
Yeah. It's weird that actually, to think that the Wii U is actually closer in kind of design concept to the Switch than it is to the Wii.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, had to start somewhere.
Yeah, just give me a Switch. I don't even care about things like having I know some people like, it has to be 60 frames per second, 4K, OLED screens. Like, nah, just give me a solid 1080p, 60 frames per second on any reasonable game. If it's not needed, I can handle 30. And it's got to be decent screen, decent battery life. I don't need.
It's got to be a
groundbreaking performance.
Big enough upgrade.
Yeah,
it's got to be a big enough upgrade though to actually warrant sales. That's the big thing, and that's the thing that people are going to be looking for, I suppose, really, is that compared to the Switch itself, people are going to need to see a reason for why should I buy this when I've already got a Switch.
Because people buy Nintendo products. I think they will.
This is the thing that This is the thing that Nintendo always have, though, isn't it? It's always like, oh yeah, the DS came out, then the 3DS, then, moving on to the Wii, the Wii U, blah, 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 blah.
They are the masters of reselling your stuff you already have.
Oh, yeah.
So, I just,
it's an ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah. But imagine, like, how good, like, things like Tears of the Kingdom could be if it wasn't on underpowered hardware.
Yeah.
Like, that it would be an amazing experience. And I don't think I'd even want to go, you know what? The Switch 2, it's part of the Switch family, and this is what I've said they should have done with the Switch Lite. You can use the same controllers. For me, the Switch Lite should have still had detachable controllers and still been compatible with the same dock. I found it weird that it wasn't.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
Yeah, just give me a better Switch 2. But apparently, Kotaku are claiming that no developer they've spoken to expects it to be launched this financial year. Which, maybe that makes sense. Maybe, like, they're looking at it going, you know what, it's a financial decision. Maybe it's an April launch. So it's on next year's books rather than this year's. So, but I think that's more of a business decision rather than a readiness decision, because I think truly they're ready to go.
Must be.
But Dragon Age Vielguard, Tom. It lands the 31st of August.
Ooh.
What's your hype level for this?
I'm sort of sitting on the upper half of the scale of hypedness, I suppose, really. Love Dragon Age. Been a while. Been a long while, hasn't it, really? And it's something that I'm quite excited for. I do enjoy the game. I love the idea of it. I've always really enjoyed the BioWare games. I just have a sort of niggling voice in the back of my head when it comes to BioWare titles these days. It's been a while since they've really wowed me with something, and I'm hoping Vielguard does it well to restore some of that faith.
Yeah, I think the last thing they did well might have been Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, and to be honest, that was a game where I think it was massive. I think that game is massively overrated. I loved Origins is one of my favourite games of all time. Inquisition starts off amazing, but it's one of them games that I liked less and less the more I played. I hated the character of Solus. Not in the way you're meant to hate him. I just anytime a character's on screen, it's like, oh, this fucker's speaking again. Can someone take this guy out of my video game, please? I do not enjoy him.
Yeah.
So the fact that I think he is meant to be central to the plot of Vielguard is not for
Leaves
me.
A bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't really like the direction of taking the series. I loved where Origins was very grounded, very gritty with the Darkspawn and the Grey Wardens and stuff. I really liked that, and there was definitely more lore going on with the mages and stuff. But they seemed to went down a weird route that's not vibing with this. And I straight up hate the art style.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that briefly because we, in pre-show we talked about the art style that they're taking with this game. It's got very controversial views online of some people thinking, oh, it's great, and some people like yourself saying, well, very much it's sort of like this 3D cartoony-esque, akin to the Clone Wars sort of art style that it doesn't really sell the concept.
Yeah, I think it's at odds with what they're saying. It's going to be aimed at a game that's very adult in its themes and its presentation, but then it's also gone the kind of Clone Wars, Fortnite in that ballpark of art styles. It's I've never been fond of it. I can overlook it if the game's good enough, but it was one of them when I saw it. It was just disappointing. It feels like they're going for a safe option by going for an art style that they know that they expect to sell well, rather than doing something quite creative or interesting, or finding what is the best fit for that game, and I really don't know what my expectations are for this, but I'm not excited by it. I should be excited for a new Dragon Age game. I'm just not.
Yeah, art style wise, I kind of agree with you. You can see where the inspiration comes from. The Clone Wars being so successful with its questionable art style. It is very much a Marmite type of art style. Me personally, it doesn't bother me too much, but I can see what you mean. It doesn't give that gritty sort of vibe, especially considering the sort of themes. It also makes me question sort of the quality of the game if the artwork or if the art style doesn't necessarily feel like it fits the theme of the game overall. Then are they cutting corners? Are the dev team being forced to cut corners? Because we know who the publishers are behind this game. We know it's EA, and we know what EA are like historically for these kinds of questionable practices, I suppose, really, in the way that they treat the dev teams.
Yeah, it feels too safe in its art style. I think for me, that art style is very played out a bit. I know it's got a huge 100%, yeah. I kind of think it was like Fortnite and Breath of the Wild kind of really popularized it, and then it was everyone just does it, and I think they are trying to get it, like, have the cake and eat it too a bit with like have an art style that is very mass market appeal for younger audience, but then also tell a gritty, grounded story that is can be quite mature and quite serious at times, and it might be one of them when you play it, you just forget about the art style within minutes, because that can happen.
Yeah.
Look at like the original Borderlands when it came out, it looked weird as hell, but as soon as you start playing, you forget.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't fill me with confidence, and I do think BioWare really need a hit. I know a lot of people loved the Mass Effect remakes, remasters. For me, they're absolute garbage. They just did not run at all well.
I remember all about your sound issues.
Yeah, and to this day, it's like, but if you can't get a remaster right, I have no patience for remasters that aren't good. They can't. If you produce a remaster that performs worse than the original, what's the point?
It's crazy to think like looking back, if we were to take ourselves back, 10, 15 years ago or so, that BioWare were right up at the pinnacle of game development. Like, I remember Mass Effect coming out, and title nobody had ever heard of before, and I remember people talking about it randomly, and then I went away and played it, and I was like, holy shit, I see what the hype's about now. This is really, really good. And BioWare were like right up there, that everybody was talking about how good their games were, how like the options that you could take, the gameplay itself was fantastic for both Dragon Age and for Mass Effect right there. And then they just sort of shit the bed a little bit. And
100%.
Dropped way off the radar. They definitely need a win.
They do, like, because during like with things like the Mass Effect trilogy, then Dragon Age Origins, they were absolutely high. But then they rushed out Dragon Age 2. They called back some support with Dragon Age Inquisition. While I've already said I think it was overrated, but it was rated very well. So then Anthem was just a weird decision, as EA was trying to push everything into this like games as a service kind of thing. It was a miss.
Yep.
The Mass Effect Legendary Edition, while beloved games, definitely suffered from performance issues, and it's been a long time since I've had the last game that they came out that was received well universally, that was a new game, so I'm excluding the Legendary Edition here, was Dragon Age Inquisition. Yeah. Mass Effect Andromeda has clawed back a lot of support from fans over time.
Yeah.
But on release, it was a miss. So it's...
And just think, this is the same... But this is the same studio that originally developed Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 that we were talking about before. Neverwinter Nights, Knights of the Old Republic. Like, these are incredible games. Like, BioWare have always had, like, a great back catalogue. And then it's just taken a nosedive. So what they've got the Vielguard coming up, and they've also got the new entry in the Mass Effect series that we know very little about at the moment too. And that sort of is gonna set the tone for BioWare now.
The length of time as well that Vielguard's been in development, because it's been maybe 6-7 years since we initially
it has been
heard about when it was called Dreadwolf.
Yep.
It did feel like vaporware for a long time, so that, again, stuff like that doesn't fill you with confidence. But let's keep moving on, because we're over an hour into the show and we've still got a few more stories to talk about. Red Dead Redemption is finally coming to PC.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That only took such a long time.
Oh, God, yeah. As a PC gamer, when Red Dead came out, it still bugged me. That it just never came.
Yep.
And interesting enough, I think it was announced through the PlayStation Store that was coming.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. It's a weird announcement. I think some screenshots were taken by Eurogamer, and the description shortly after the 8 AM UK time, reading from Eurogamer right now, so players were now able to play Red Dead Redemption on PC for the first time ever, and this was captured from the PlayStation Store.
Wow. Okay. So somebody dropped the ball there.
I'm not sure if they have, because we know more and more PlayStation stuff is coming to PC, and there's a lot of talk. I don't know if it's ever been fully confirmed that Sony are going to bring out a PlayStation launcher for PC specifically, which might mean that there's going to be an integrated store. So it's possible that this Red Dead Redemption on the PC is actually just the PlayStation version ported impartially, maybe in partnership with Sony.
Okay.
I mean, none of this is kind of confirmed as of yet, but it is a interesting thing, because the reason why I was never bothered about Red Dead 2 is because I never played Red Dead 1.
Yeah.
Because it didn't come out on the right platform of choice at the time.
Yeah, it always sort of struck me as being weird that, Red Dead 2 came out on in 2019 on Steam, and there was never any sort of sign of where is the original.
It feels like that's one of them things. Oh, we're bringing out Red Dead 2, and it seems like, guys, we haven't got Red Dead 1 there. Let's get that out there.
Yep.
Let's just launch it.
Absolutely. Extra sales, right?
Let's keep moving on.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Concord? Do you have any?
I have literally no thoughts on Concord at the moment. Well, I don't know how I feel about games like this anymore, like live service shooters. I don't know. I've got such a bitter taste in my mouth since Overwatch.
Overwatch 2.
Overwatch 2, talking about. I have some love for certain games, but when it becomes like a live service game, I have to see a reason to want to invest my time and my money into it. There are games out there that do this sort of thing great for free. Valorant, for example. Like, what's the point of me playing Overwatch 2 when I can play Valorant for free? For example, I mean, I know Overwatch 2 is free as well, but Valorant just feels like a step up. Apex Legends, again, I need to see a reason. Why would I want to invest in Concord is the big question. Like, what sets it out, sets it apart from the other similar sort of titles?
As someone who's not into these sort of games, I couldn't tell you, because to me it does look like Overwatch again. It's got quite a zany cast of characters, some quite comedic moments, but the gameplay looks very much just like every other arena shooter. Obviously, I think it'll feel different to play, the different abilities and different characters. But the news actually we're talking about here is actually the PlayStation have confirmed there will be at least 3 seasons. The game is £35 out the gate, and I believe there's going to be no battle pass, And the additional first 3 seasons that they have announced will be at no additional cost, but there will be an in-game store with cosmetic characters, cosmetic additions.
I think that's better. To what I hear, I think when people put money down for something, I think it's, I don't know. I think this is going to come down to the individual more than anything when it comes to looking at a live service shooter. I think some people will want to pay for it, like akin to Overwatch 1. When Overwatch came out, you had to buy the game before it became a live service game later on down the line. I think it depends on how they approach the additional seasons. It depends on how they monetize. Is it going to be loot boxes, or is it going to be straight up buy tokens to buy skins and the like? Because it's a mixed bag, and I think because a lot of people have experience of playing other live service games, I think adding another one to the pot, all of a sudden people go into it with sort of like presumptions or sort of there's some sort of pretense there, I suppose, that when you go into it, what am I going to expect the same bullshit really as I got with X, Y, or Z?
I always kind of think with live service games, the reason why I think it's so difficult to nail but so lucrative when you get them right is you develop this huge loyal fan base who will continually spend a lot of time and a lot of money in your game. Then the new thing comes around, people will maybe jump over briefly to try it, but if it isn't a significantly better experience, you're talking about gamers who are very, very happy to play the same game over and over and over and over again. That's the point. So if the game's not better in a significant way, people then revert to what they're playing. So in this case, a lot of Overwatch players will probably jump into Concord. It's only £35. Let's try it out. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 are free. They release in October, January, and April, respectively. But if it's not better than Overwatch,
what is the market for?
They'll just go back to Overwatch. So that's why
the other question I have to ask
nail.
Is the market becoming oversaturated by live service shooters because they're all competing for the same pot of players? Yeah. Are you diluting it too thin? Is that's going to be a problem at some point?
Yeah, I think there is market saturation, and I think it's gone. Concord has very much got an uphill battle to win players over. Yeah, I think the advantage they have is Overwatch 2 wasn't received very well at all. So there might be some lapsed Overwatch players who are looking for that kind of experience again, but don't want to play Overwatch.
There's also Marvel Rivals as well, and Marvel Rivals has the ability. Well. It has, and it has the IP. It has a very well established IP with an incredibly successable, the most successful film franchise of all time. Yeah, there you go. And you sort of you put a game out like Concord and you think, why would I bother with this when I could have that? That's how I feel about it. Why would I have the Iceland's own frozen steak bake when I could have the Greg's freshly prepared one? Do you know what I mean? It's like okay.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not from the UK and has never had a Greg's steak bake, I think we are in end of September. I want to say the 29th. I think we have a meet and greet in Manchester. While you're there, get yourself one. But yeah, I'm with you. It's obviously you're more into live service games than me, but you're kind of echoing what I've been said. So I kind of feel redeemed almost. In my cynicism.
I wish I wasn't that ingrained in live service, to be honest with you. But hey, here I am.
I wish it well. I hope they succeed. I just think it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, agree.
Especially when it's paid content. When I think with live service, the expectation is it's free to play, and then you start paying for season passes. So maybe once every couple of months you drop 20 quid or something.
Definitely.
Let's keep moving on because there's still a few more things I want to cover. We've mentioned it a couple of times, Tom. What are your thoughts on the PlayStation Portal?
I like the concept. I have very much had a savings account to try to get myself a Steam Deck at some point.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sort of in that, I'd love to have a portable access to my gaming devices, to be able to move freely around the house, because I am constantly having to chase around 2 children, 2 dogs, cleaning up after everything as well. And it's like, this guy doesn't have time to sit down in front of a TV and boot up the console anymore. The only time the PlayStation gets turned on anymore these days is when my kid accidentally turns it on by grabbing the controller. So it's like, geez, give me something where I can just like laze on the sofa and just play. I would love it. Yeah, I do need to look into it more. Yeah.
Yeah, my only gripe is it's remote play only. It doesn't have the full cloud package yet. I hope it eventually comes. Well, my other gripe is if you want to use wireless earbuds, you have to buy Sony's proprietary ones.
Boo.
Fuck you, Sony, for that. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can use wired ones, but I want to be able to use my Pixel Bud ears that I already own with this device, and for no reason other than corporate greed, I can't. So
don't like that.
But that being said, I love my Portal, and it apparently a lot of people do as well, because the PS Portal is currently in the UK the top of the sales charts for video game accessories.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah,
well done. They've done something right.
Yeah, they're nailing it. I quite find the Push Square article quite funny. There's one thing I read is like reading from the article, and almost 33% of you polled on Push Squares said you had zero interest in the device. Well, as it turns out, you're in the minority. It's like, well, yeah, because 33% is a minority. I know what they were going for with the statement, but it was just like,
yeah,
you missed that one, Push Square. But
absolutely.
But yeah, It's just selling incredibly well.
Good.
Chris is still predicting that it will outsell PSVR 2 by the end of the year. I'm surprised it hasn't already.
I'm very much. I'd very much see that there's more of a use case for the Portal than there is for PSVR 2.
Yeah,
I think VR is very gimmicky. It is very gimmicky, and it's very much it's strange, because I don't want to call it a fad, because we've been through this VR sort of like craze again and again and again. It has a use, but it is a very different use. You can experience certain titles from a different perspective, but the vast majority of people are not going to want to buy a VR headset. Whereas I can very much see people wanting to be able to play their console from somewhere else in the house. Like, oh, Johnny wants to go to bed, well, he wants to play his PlayStation. Sod it. Just go, here you go. Get him a PlayStation Portal, he can go upstairs to his room. You're not having a PlayStation on your TV in your room, Johnny.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah, my biggest gripe about it is why I still stand by everything I've said on the show about the Portal. When the Portal was first announced, I went, that isn't because he doesn't have the full VR experience, because it's remote play only. It locks down your console, which means if you're, say, traveling for work, you can't be then playing games on it while your wife is at home watching Netflix via your PlayStation. It locks down the console. I stand 100% by it. But then I've also said I fell into the niche where, because I have my own PlayStation behind me, my girlfriend's got one. When I'm around hers, it is the solution for me to be able to play games while I'm at hers, while she's also using her PlayStation.
I think price-wise, it sits itself quite nicely as well. Yeah. £200 is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have used remote play on her PlayStation to my PlayStation, and from the Portal to my PlayStation, and the Portal wins in terms of performance.
The only thing they need to do now is they need to release it in different colours.
Oh, yeah, they do. They won't.
It's
not as ugly as a DualSense, because it doesn't have the weird two-tone thing going on because the screen's there. But, you mentioned VR. MetaQuest you can now use as a HDMI device screen.
Okay.
There is some caveats to this. So it was actually Basil, who was the project manager over at Meta, who reached out to us to let us know the news, which includes using it on things like PlayStation. He literally tweeted saying, PS5 on the plane, anyone? In response to the Verge article where it was announced. There's a few things you have to jump around, but what general thoughts about using like something like a MetaQuest as a HDMI device for a PlayStation or the like?
Oh, it's a weird one, this, because it's like, again, I can see it. I can see why, right? I can see very specific purposes, or very, like, case-by-case scenarios where it is doable, like where it kind of makes sense, really. Like, but there's also part of me that thinks, how fucking weird are you going to be sat on a plane with your 3D, like your VR headset on, with a PlayStation hooked up and connected to it to be able to actually play it into your visor? Like,
I'm not quite sure how that would work. You may maybe if you'd have to use remote play via your phone and there's a HDMI device from your phone. I think it's cool to see them, like, with these VR headsets and stuff, expanding the functionality.
Yes.
I don't think it's a selling point. It's a nice to have for people who already have the device.
I think one thing I could see it working quite well with is, it's just popped into my mind, is if you are a keen sort of, like, again, retro gamer, if you had something like a Raspberry Pi that you wanted to, like, output the HDMI, connect it to a VR headset, you could almost create your own sort of, like, homebrew, portable head, like, VR contained HDMI output for playing games, like playing arcade games on. But I'm struggling to see the bigger use. I imagine there's probably better use in industry as opposed to like domestic use at home.
Well, that might actually be where Meta are leaning, because we know Meta have previously, like, really kind of pushed a bit using the use of MetaQuest for things like business use and for things like meetings. So it might be one of them. Oh, we see this as cool technology for industry, but we're going to push it to the consumer side as well, as a way of it's just a bit extra. If we're working on technology, it's an extra potential boost in the revenue streams. I'm not sold on using VR as a utility, really, unless, for me, it has to be, how does the VR experience improve upon the traditional experience? So I think it was I found it hilarious when Mark Zuckerberg was talking about using MetaQuest to have meetings. I was like, but we already have Microsoft Teams, we already have Zoom and, like, Skype, and how does strapping a thing on my face in VR improve that experience? I don't think it does.
I don't. I just think there's still something about VR headsets that just makes me feel like people look a little bit foolish. Like, I get it. If you are doing it in the comfort of your own home, and it's like watching porn, really. It's kind of like VR is like watching porn, really. Like using a VR headset, because it's like you can sit there feeling quite comfortable in your own home, but you wouldn't do it out in public.
You sat there on your couch with your VR headset on, taking care of your needs, while you have no idea there's people in the room with you.
But, like, I mean, this idea that you could use it as an output device, like an HDMI output, you could plug, again, going back to it, you could plug your Chromecast into it and you could watch TV on there. I know there's probably, again, apps and access to it on the MetaQuest anyway, but for whatever use case scenario that people are going to use the HDMI output for, I can't see you being sat in your living room with your headset on, with your family around you while they're doing their thing, and you're just sat there in your own little world with your VR headset on. It just seems a little bit antisocial and a little bit kind of cringe in a way, really.
Yeah, I still sometimes think VR is something that big tech is very keen on, and the rest of the world's like gone, oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, that looks a bit fun. Okay, back on with our lives.
Pretty much.
Let's move on. Our last story of the day: Black Myth Wukong. We have the reviews. The early reviews are out.
Nice.
What's your general thoughts on this? Because it's been coming out for a while.
I remember when we first saw the preview of this, and we thought graphically it looked stunning, like absolutely incredible. We were really hyped, hoping that it would come to Stadia. I think we probably saw it at E3 or even at Gamescom at a point a few years ago, and it very much came across as sort of like this Chinese mythology inspired take on a Soulsborne type game, or an Elden Ring type game. But it seems it's not that, does it, Richie? It seems it's not.
No, I'm trying to remember which review I read it in, but there was one of the reviews said it's kind of, the gameplay is kind of a bit more frantic, a bit more fast paced than you would typically expect from a Soulsborne.
Okay.
Reading from GameSpot, Black Myth Wukong is an uneven game where the highlights often outnumber the lowlights. Its triumphant boss battles and fast-paced combat make up for the stale moments in between, where bland level design and the scarcity of enemies will have you clamouring for the next face-off with the deadly Yao Guai. I appreciate that it's not just another Souls-like in what's now a crowded genre. I think that's important, that it's not just another exponent of the genre.
Yes.
It's being its own thing.
Yeah.
To continue reading, and the choice to go for a boss gauntlet is unexpected and honestly quite refreshing. It's disappointing that it falters outside of its cinematic clashes against mighty beasts, but designing this many rousing boss battles while avoiding the sense of fatigue is no mean feat and deserves praise. GameSpot give that an 8 out of 10.
Oh, fair, reasonable, right?
Yeah. Most other places are giving it. IGN give it an 8, PC Gamer 87 out of 100, Games Radar 4 out of 5, Polygon have it unscored as it stands, Silicon Era 8 out of 10. It feels like a solid 8 out of 10.
Absolutely, and for a game that's developed by a Chinese studio as well, I think that's promising for things from the Asian world again, because we get great hits from Japan all the time, but something that's inspired by like Chinese culture as well and Chinese mythology, I think it's cool. It's cool, and it's definitely a game that I'm keen on trying out. And even if it is a little bit more hack and slash and a little less Souls-like, I'm still keen to try it out.
Yeah. Reading from Polygon's review, Black Myth Wukong is an astounding triumph, one that blends a story celebrating Chinese and other East Asian cultures with an original retelling that has resonant themes, all complemented by spectacular design and exhilarating combat. While the narrative is confusing at first, as I can personally attest to, it nonetheless encourages you to embrace that sense of strangeness and wonder as you venture into distant lands, much like a certain journey written centuries ago that stood the test of time, and that was Jason Rodriguez. So he hasn't scored it, but reading that, I'm guessing it's up there for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that it's less Soulsy than expected gets me more interested. I've got to admit that. Like, I'm not a Soulsy game person. I don't like being stressed playing games. I don't mind challenge, but I find Soulsy stuff. I know when I played a bit of Elden Ring, sometimes I found the challenge unfair rather than difficult. I know a lot of people disagree with me vehemently on that, but that's just my personal take. So I think I like things to be a bit less Soulsy. Well, I think there's a good game in there by the looks of it.
It does seem that way.
It does. And that is it for the news section. And we like to round up the show, Tom, with a section that we call This Week in Video Game History, where we go through usually the day or the either side of when we record, looking at a list of games from yesteryear. So looking at August the 18th, is anything that jumps out at you that came out on this day in video games history?
Having a quick look through there, the first one that sticks out to me is Disney Infinity 2013. Oh, wow. Disney trying to capitalize on the old Skylanders fad of collect all these minis and scan them in with their NFC, and you too can feed money into the corporate machine.
The amiibos. Nintendo. The amiibos, yeah. Do amiibos still exist? Does Nintendo still come? Because the Switch is fully amiibo compatible, but it feels like it's died off a lot.
I have absolutely no idea, you know. I mean, I've just gone to the Nintendo store, and I can indeed confirm that amiibo are still a thing. They are releasing new amiibo.
All right.
The latest 3 amiibo are there are 2 duo sets for Splatoon, and a Sora amiibo for Super Smash Bros.
It seems to be a rarer thing, though. It felt like at the start of the Switch, everything was amiibo, everything.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, looking through the list, there's nothing jumping out at me. Yeah.
Taking a quick look through again. I mean, Spiritfarer, I know it was only 4 years ago, but again, I've got fond memories of Spiritfarer when it came out on Stadia. It was a nice little game. It was very relaxing. It had a very sort of somber story to it. This idea of like ferrying souls of the dead, essentially, but with a very cutesy sort of overtone to it.
Yeah, I remember covering it. It looked at one of them games. It looked like, oh, this could be like an indie darling, and I think it did. It may have like been forgotten about a bit, so it'd be nice to see. That's one where I think it'd be nice to see it make drop into like a random PlayStation Plus like announcement just to give it a bit more love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, that's all we have time for you this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all fantastic content. Thank you, Tom, for joining us again. It's been a pleasure to have you back.
It's been good. It's been good.
I've enjoyed it.
Likewise.
We'll have to get you back more often.
Yes.
My name's been My name's been Richie.
I've been Tom.
Thank you very much for watching. GG everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.